Generally, what is taken as this kind of the mainstream of accepted culture is one that won't disturb the status quo. And as people, what I feel happened actually was that I'm afraid schools come into it, that the subject poetry became defined in such a way as to exclude things like, say, politics or particular ways of speaking, because you say, oh, well, politics, that's the history department. Or, you know, something else, that's the, you can't write a poem about that. It doesn't have to do with poetry. Poetry is about these high values, which are couched in this high language, which you either learn or you can't write poetry. You will acquire value as a human being by learning our values. That really is the way that I see how a lot of poetry came to be excluded. In the beginning was the Word. 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 In the beginning was a sound. My father was from Dublin and came and settled in Glasgow, so there's a lot of Catholic Irish culture in my background, which I just see as part of Scotland. I mean, it caused my parents a lot of upset now, but I gave up my religion when I was about 16 or something. I'm no longer part of that culture. I'm no longer part of that narrative. When I was about 15, my older brothers, they liked listening to Radio Luxembourg, which was the first kind of rock station in the wireless. And I went my own space. I mean, so I insisted that I get listening to Radio 3 for a certain amount of, third programme as it was then, for a certain amount of time each night. I didn't even like the music at first. I grew to love it. But I just wanted to be outside that narrative. I don't ever claim to represent the excluded in any way. I mean, I'm not sort of Robin Hood of, working class language or something. But what is often drives me from anger into writing, or sometimes from humour and then into writing, is a reaction against what is portrayed as the inclusive and isn't inclusive. If you hear a working class voice and you hear someone with an upper middle class voice and they say spot the major and spot the private, it would be hard. If you get into a courtroom and you hear somebody speaking in a broad city voice and you hear somebody speaking with an upper middle class voice, who's the judge and who's the accused?
And their judges spoke with one dialect.
But the condemned spoke with many voices.
And the prisons were full of many voices.
But never the dialect of the judges.
And the judges said, no one is above the law.
I think this business of whether or not, somebody is invisible in the language and the truth just comes through, that has application also in the actual printed word. And the way like headlines or different types of fonts create a certain kind of voice or certain presumptions about how you interpret what you see. Like the bigger a headline, you're supposed to assume it's important. Just to sit at your computer and play with different fonts, play at making words with different letters and so forth, treating the language just purely as an object. There's obviously a whole tradition of what is called concrete poetry in this, which is worth checking out if you haven't checked it out. But it's a way again of becoming aware that language isn't something that just comes through to you via in some unfiltered or unaffected way. You know, the truth doesn't arrive that way. How it's presented, the voice affects it. The voice is part of the message. The letters are part of the message. I mean, you can have fun with that, as I say. I mean, in my news poem, the guy doesn't say, or rather, he is not reported as saying scruff 3 times, you know, with it unintentionally. The word scruff means you down there. It didn't mean like you other or we can't stand the people over the hill. It means you down there with a valueless language. Everybody when he speaks is within a whole social thing. And that applies to print as well. It's within a whole social thing. And it's just a way, it's that when someone with a broad accent speaks, the context is seen all the time. And when someone without that low status language, which is what it's about, speaks. So when someone has got high status language, it's assumed this is objectivity. This is the invisible. How they speak is irrelevant. It's just truth pouring through them like water through a tap. Whereas, you know, if someone's got low status language, you know, the pipe doesn't run there, sorry. This is the 6 o'clock news, the man said. And the reason I talk with a BBC accent is because you wouldn't want me to talk about the truth with a voice like one of you scruff. If I talked about the truth like one of you scruff, you wouldn't think it was true. Just one of you scruff talking. There's a right way to spell and a right way to talk it. This is me talking, your right way of spelling. This is my truth. You don't know the truth yourselves, because you can't talk right. This is the 6 o'clock news. Belt up. What I think is important that people should realise is that whoever they are, they own the language that they speak, and that the culture that they're a part of and their own experience is no less important than anybody else's, and that therefore it is material for art. Your own voice, your own way of expressing your own culture is as valid as anybody else's.